everybody to the Beefmaster Banner. Today we're joined by Greg Hendrix from H Bar Beefmasters, as well as Trey Scherer from Strategy Cattle. Talk a little bit about Greg and H Bar, the history of H Bar coming into the breed, and what he's done so far. It's been pretty impressive. 2024, he was honored as New Breeder of the Year, and we've got some, one of the largest breeders already in the breed in just a short amount of time. And I want to thank Greg for everything he's done for BBU and beef and the juniors and the cattle women. And just get us kicked off, Greg. Give us a little history on how you got started in the breed.
Well, so I had always had commercial cattle and had some commercial Beefmasters for a while that I was buying out of a registered program that just weren't papered up, and just really loved the cattle, was going back to Angus bulls with them, and ended up driving over to Collier's one day with a friend to pick up a bull, and it was sale week, and got to looking at the cattle, and that's when I met Trey. And it wasn't long before the salesman he had a catalog in my hand, and we were talking about the weekend, and I wasn't able to attend, but I had them do some bidding for me, and I think we ended up with 7 to 9 lots that year. Trey will probably remember a little bit better what came out of that, but we ended up with some cattle that we just, at that time, were just, going back to registered bulls with, and it took about 3 or 4 years before we started the AI process and gradually working our commercial cattle out of the herd, and just now pretty well straight registered herd, except for just a few recips that we've got.
Greg, you're talking about it.
I remember Mark Moore bidding for you, Greg. That was the best part. That's what I really remember about that sale.
Yeah, I heard he was rolling himself when he got a little bit excited, and to my expense.
Hey, Greg, you and I have talked a little bit about it, and you told me one of the things that got you interested is you saw what you could do with the breed after you bought a heifer, and then I think you sold a heifer out of her first heifer, something like that. Is that
well,
right?
What really got me kind of where I first really understood the value, first of all, is the first sale that I get over there too, and see these bulls bringing $40,000 to $50,000, and I used to be excited about selling a $2,500 bred heifer, and I actually bought a group of, I think there was 10 or 12 registered females that were some 7C cattle, and I think I gave $2,800 to $3,000 a piece for them, and Trey ended up helping me come up with a bull that we decided we named Arsenal. He was a tank son, and anyway, I bred him back to that set of cattle, and one of those females ended up bringing $28,000 out of a $2,800 cow back at one of Mike's Advantage sales in the future. So we got, that kind of got my head thinking a little bit different direction. And at that time, Trey told me, he said, hey, there's a few different ways you can go about this. And he kind of helped me lay out a plan. And we started the AI process a little bit more, and then gradually started doing some IVF and flush work. And it just kept growing, and we just kept picking up more cattle and more as we went.
It's pretty awesome to hear stories like that about the return on investment and putting together a really good plan. You wanted to go big. I mean, you've mentioned it, growing it. And I guess what makes you want to go big? I've seen some of the other things you've done. I guess, is that just kind of your mentality, your personality?
My wife asked me the same question pretty regular, and I don't know that I've got a good answer to that. It's just something in me. I've just kind of always been the kind that if I'm going to be involved in something, I want to be involved in it heavily. And I also want to try to do the best that I can, and, have the best that you can afford to buy, and then try to raise something even better. And it's just something, it honestly has become a passion for me. I mean, my therapy is riding out through the pasture in the afternoons, looking at cattle, thinking about matings, and I catch myself wishing my life away, waiting on the next calf crop to hit the ground to see what they're going to turn out. And it's just, it's truly been something, just especially now that all my kids have gotten out of high school and we kind of quit chasing them around in sports. I got a little bit more free time and was able to really, invest more time and resources into it.
Well, we talked about you going fast, getting big. You're one of the largest breeders in the breed. And not only that, I think you touched on it there. You jumped in head first, got involved in all the programs, DNA, performance measures, getting on WHR, and just making a push. So, what does that provide your customers with you giving them everything?
Well, I think that they need to know as much about that animal as you do. And I think by keeping the right kind of records, you're able to put something in front of them. They're able to see 100K DNA. They know whether that animal is truly polled or homozygous polled based on the DNA. They're getting carcass readings. And if they're really wanting to work on their IMF in their own program, well, they're seeing exactly what it is. And I feel like that you've got to give every effort to be able to get as much information as you can to know how you want to be breeding these animals. And if we're not getting that information, you don't know if a 09J is going to work with a clone on how that carcass is going to do. So I just think it's real important for what we do as far as breeding.
You mentioned breeding, and I'm sure Trey can hop in on this too. You just mentioned that with some of the clones, and how do they do with this, and how does this donor do with this sire? And I guess what's been your approach there when you're making your mating decisions?
Well, Trey and I end up discussing a big majority of these, and Trey, he's sitting there not wanting me to make a mistake, telling you, hey, there's got to be a threshold for the pain that you can take. And I think I may be the little devil on his shoulder trying to make him try something that maybe somebody else hadn't tried. And he's telling me, hey, you can do layups. You don't have to always try to, crash the backboard. So we just kind of go back and forth on it. But it's, a lot of it has been really working with these bulls with the larger ribeyes, the bigger IMFs, and trying to work on carcass while still liking what you look at. I still want to go out in the pasture and see the type of female that I like. And that's kind of, that phenotype, keeping that in there is one of the, I think one of the toughest things when you're working on the carcass data.
For sure. I mean, those are the challenges. One thing, Lance, I'll say, Greg's got a really keen eye for cattle, and he likes what he likes, and he's drawn to it, and he's super consistent. I see a lot of people bounce around all over the place, and I can pattern Greg really well, and what he likes, other people like, and that's easy to market for me on my end. So when we get to talking about genetics and what we're going to do in the H-Bar program, we know we like those traditional cow families that have that elegance and that classic look. That's the flow we like in our cattle: extended front, level top lines, squareness. I wouldn't say freaky show ring conformation, but really great mama cows, angularity, all the things you're taught in judging and all the way up through. But then when you come in and you try these new performance sires, Greg, like you said, he's always wanting to push the envelope. And I'm more of we know this mating over here always works. He's like, well, let's go big on a couple. And so you fight some challenges. But for people that are unsure about that, when you stay with those great proven cow families from some of those legendary programs, and you see them all over the bottom side of H-Bar cattle, then you can come in and get a little wild and crazy at times with some top-side stuff, as long as you still complement the cows and you still breed something that's marketable and create these animals that are a next generation. I call them Gen 1 animals or Gen 2s, kind of on how many times past double down traditional lines they are. And so what Greg's got going there at H Bar is super exciting because we're combining the best of the old stuff, like clones of Oasis and Diamond Pearl and Diamond Maiden and L2 and Collier and Cottage cow families with the most cutting edge CJ, Next Gen, J&T genetics that are out there. And that's pretty cool.
That's extremely interesting. One of the things that I enjoy, when I've talked to Greg, when I've gone out there, I was out there last year a little bit before the sale and out there for the sale. This year I was out there a little bit, looked at some cattle that are extremely unique in their breeding. And I think that's something that this breed is needed, from my perspective. And I think we can talk a little bit more later on about, what we're doing to move the breed forward. But I kind of want to talk about the sale. And Greg, you had a really successful sale last year. You jumped out there, had a really successful sale, lots of good cattle in it. You have one coming up. What are your thoughts on last year versus this year?
Well, we were just talking earlier, but right now one of my biggest thoughts is just the fact that I got to stand up in front of people and say a few words, and that's not really my cup of tea. So I'm already nervous about that. But as far as the sale goes, I felt like we had a really good set of cattle last year, and Trey felt like we were ready for our first sale. I was a little bit reluctant, but we were just blessed with a good turnout and a lot of good friends and people in the breed that have really, been mentors to me, and I've learned an awful lot from, and, just had a lot of people show up and support us. So it was a great sale. I'll keep my fingers crossed that, we have the type of sale that we did last year, as far as the turnout and support. But I feel like, as proud of the cattle that I was last year, I'm really proud of what we have to offer. I feel like we've got a very good group of cattle. I feel like we've got some cattle that can fit, most any type of cattleman. We've got, some big stout heifers that are tighter wound that, are just really powerful. Then we've still got, a lot that have that, old school look, the deep flat-sided soggy females. I think we've got over 60 polled animals out there, and I don't remember if it's 8, 10, or 12, but we've got quite a few homozygous polled. So I just feel I feel really good about what we got to offer.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting coming up, Greg. I'll chime in on this, Lance. Last year it was a stellar offering. I told Greg the cattle will tell us when we're ready, and I told him last year the cattle are ready, and a lot of people can pull off that first one and you kind of gut your offering to do it. And then the second one's a challenge. You really find out what you're made of on the sophomore sale, because the cattle really have to be good, and the curiosity factor is maybe over a little bit. And so this year's offering, if you thought last year's was good, this year's just blows it out of the park. I mean, it is so deep. Like he said, so many, 62 of 70 polled, over 10 homozygous polled. Look at the carcass data, like 10, 11-inch ribeyes are average, 4 IMFs are average, EPDs in the top 25 to 15% is nothing. There's lots in the top 5 and 10% through this thing on indexes and other numbers. And then you get into the cow families and the matings and the ET calves. Think about all of the donors on the bottom side and those cow families you talked about with a long lineup of performance sires. I mean, what he has done there is phenomenal. I'm so excited to be part of it. It makes my job a whole lot more fun, let me tell you.
Well, we're kind of hitting on the excitement. I think the breed as a whole, it's really exciting to see new breeders come into this breed. And Trey, I'll give you a little chance to brag on Greg.
Well, when you're talking about new breeders coming in, and everybody comes in from different backgrounds, different resources, different areas of the country with different goals in mind. Some people just want to have a handful of cows. Some want to go big like Greg. But, Greg has that special energy about him, and people that have been around him know that. That's what makes it exciting to be part of H Bar, and you're instantly drawn in not only to the cattle, but the program and the personalities that are involved in the program. But as far as a new breeder comes in, Greg kind of did what Beefmaster Extraordinaire should do. If you're looking to model yourself after a program, you go and look at it. You don't have to spend giant dollars. You don't have to have hundreds and hundreds of animals and do a production sale within 7 years like H Bar. If you do, that's great. But
Yes.
he went out and found what he wanted to do. He had a direction. He found great support and resources and mentors and said, okay, saw what they were doing. He found what he liked in cattle. He had an idea of where he wanted to go with the program, and he executed it. And it's not always easy. Greg will tell you, I mean, some years we had bad transfers or low conception rates on AI. Sometimes a bull gets hurt. Sometimes you lose a calf crop. Sometimes you lose your best donor or bull in the pasture. It happens. But you keep fighting through that. You stay the plan, you stay the course, and you stay true to what you want to do. And it's exciting to see people like Greg and H Bar rise to the surface. I mean, new breeder of the year was the first step, let me tell you. This guy's going to blow it out of the park because he's doing it all right. And I think a lot of new breeders we have, Lance, in the breed are doing it right as well. And I want to thank them as a BBU president for stepping up and getting involved as well. So thank you, Greg, and thank you all our new members.
I'm excited for what we've just since I've been doing it. We see new guys stepping up and buying great animals, and I'm just tickled to death that I wasn't having to deal with some of those guys 5 or 6 years ago, or I may not have been able to buy what I've bought because we've got some guys coming in now that are very serious about it and gonna build some great programs and are building them. And I think what we've got coming, and as you said, the sky's the limit for the Beefmaster breed. I mean, we've just got so much room to grow, and I think with more younger breeders, newer people in the breed that are doing what they're doing, I just think you're going to see some just incredible animals coming through that in the Beefmaster breed that are just a little bit newer, different version of what we've been doing. And I think we can compete with anybody out there.
Absolutely.
I'm excited. One thing Lance and Greg did is he went out and identified the very best to put himself at the top. Everybody says, well, it'll take 10, 20 years to get there because I can't compete with a so-and-so and a so-and-so that's been in the breed 30, 40 years and have these reputation deals. He went out and bought the very best product they had at the top of the crop and was instantly on an even playing field with them from a cattle quality. So I'd like to encourage others to do that. And you can do that on June 6th, but go out there and buy cattle at the very top of a top program. And now you've eliminated the genetics gap. Now you just have to follow through with your breeding and your marketing and get out there and hustle. And so I think that's been one of the major things that Greg has done that has put him where he is he jumped up there and bought the top of the top and then went from there. So kudos to them.
And, every time you look around, there's, one of these incredible breeders that's putting on a sale somewhere where you can go buy their very best. These guys are offering it up to us every day. And it's just, making your choice of what fits your program and then coming back with the right bull to implement your own plan. But, we've got my sale coming up, and right behind it, we've got 2 or 3 more just right around the corner, and had them all spring. And it's just every time you look around, you have the opportunity to jump out there and buy somebody's best.
Yeah. Pretty phenomenal.
There's, like y'all said, there's some really good stuff coming, in all these sales, but we're here talking to you today, Greg, and Trey made a little hint about a date. You want to tell us a little bit more about what's coming up at that event, some of the things we can expect and the things that we can, just tell us about it.
Well, so we're excited to be able to host anybody that wants to come out. We'll be at the sale facility, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I know people will be coming out a big part of the day on Friday. We'll start cooking, you know, around 6 and eat around 7. We'll have some live entertainment. Think you guys will have a good time with that. And just we're going to sell one lot of some Trinity Oasis females that are out of the clone that I think are just really unique animals. And then we'll auction off a hunt like we did last year. We had a great time on that hunt, and last year it benefited beef and the JBBA, and this year we're doing JBBA and the ladies cattle women. So we encourage y'all to come out for that. And Trey's got some plans. We got some roulette wheels that we'll have out there giving out prizes.
Now we're talking.
So we'll be giving out some embryos, semen. Got some other exciting stuff to do, and then of course Saturday morning we'll be we'll be feeding everybody breakfast. Y'all come out and have coffee, drinks, anything you want, and we'll get started. You know, probably around 10:45. And
so the hospitality
we're ready to go with it. What's that?
The hospitality out there is unmatched. Great time last year. Encourage everybody to get out there, but if not, Trey, where can you find it?
It's good. It's really a who's who in the Beefmaster breed showing up out there. Everybody has a good time. Greg being modest, it is phenomenal hospitality, a whale of a great time in a beautiful background, overlooking the bottom and beautiful Livingston up on a hill. The nightlife is going to be fabulous. It's just going to be fun. Last year we had a blast, and then the next day, the cooking, the food, the hospitality, the drinks, the cattle, everything was just on fire, and it was the place to be. So that's June the 5th and 6th coming up in Livingston, Texas. You can definitely go online and find us or give me a shout, and we'll get you directed in, dialed in. Be there. It's a place to be.
All right. We've talked about the event that it's coming up. I'll start with Greg. Greg, pick out some of your favorite matings that y'all are selling in this sale. You know, and I think there's some pretty exciting stuff coming.
You know, I mean, I've got so many favorites in here. I wish I could skip this sale kind of in a way. I'd love to be hanging on to a lot of these. They're exactly what I visualized to really build a herd and work with. But of course, Diamond Pearl, you know, has got to be right there at the top for me. She's just produced with every bull that she's worked with. I mean, she works with everything, and her daughters are proven to do the same thing. So those Daybreak Diamond Pearls, you know, in my opinion, you got to put there at the top. We've got lot 44, a Daybreak, a Unico Diamond Pearl that I think is just a phenomenal female. And these L2 Envies, the Daybreaks, we've got some picks on those. I love those. I was excited about them from the very beginning. They came out looking good. And then Precious Jewel, a female that I got from Clark a few years ago. I mean, she just, in my opinion, absolutely knocked it out of the park with Daybreak. Those two homozygous polled females, a pick of those, they're great. I mean, I can just go on and on. The Boss Ladies, love them. We got a pick of Visions Dreams in Daybreak. I think you could build a herd around that cow. She's just kind of the same way, just a bunch of, what's going to be, in my opinion, fantastic, brood cows and donors in the future. And I just flipped the page, and here's a Primate Diamond Pearl, polled. I love her too.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think there's a common theme I hear popping up, and Trey, I think you can echo this, is we're talking about polled, and we're talking about carcass, and we're injecting two things into our breed that as a breed we've needed to do for a while. And I think there's some pretty outstanding matings here, and I'll let you go at it.
Sure. Well, you know what's super cool, Lance, is we haven't mentioned color or how they look. You know why? Because they're all red and they all look awesome. I mean, those are two of the things. And underline, where did that go? Remember how that was such a big deal 10, 15 years ago? The underlines are great across the board. The color's perfect across the board. There's almost zero white on these females. so easy to do, extremely uniform in their look and type and kind. We're knocking the horns off them. That's going to be the next great step. Imagine, I get excited about this. Imagine as a breed when they're all the same color, they all look great, the underlines and the horns aren't even an issue. Then we can turn down the screw and the dial on carcass, on performance, on calving ease, on longevity, on feed efficiency, on stability, on all of those things that matter. And so you dive into this offering, you see what Daybreak's doing. I don't know if he's your favorite bull or not, really doesn't matter, but I know what does matter is nobody can say Daybreak isn't increasing the performance, the carcass, and the poll. That's not even arguable. He is creating polled cattle that are higher carcass, both ribeye and IMF. The growth is great. The calving ease is phenomenal. I mean, he's a heifer bull specialist as far as calving ease, low birth weight, and then they turn around and have plenty of grow and punch. And then you're seeing some of the first udders now in these first calf pairs, and they're gorgeous uddered with milk, and they're moderate cattle that get fat on dirt. You know, these girls right here haven't been eating that much. Greg argued that his feed bill is a little higher than that, but I mean, realistically, these girls have probably been eating on a feed ration for 60, 90 days, not no 180-day kind of a situation. So these girls stay fleshy quick, and they do all the things. We're seeing the breed up on these heifers from AI and stuff, super early maturing as well. That's what I'm excited about. And then diving into the matings, again, classic cow families. Think about the Oasis clones in here. And then you've got stuff like Magnitude, Magnifico back on them, giant carcass bulls with some genetics from a different side of the breed. You know, you got a FMC Magnitude bringing in that JK 1001, creating some really great performance numbers, and they're really helping. You've got Wrecking Ball from the Next Gen program bringing in Flint Rock on top of great donor and traditional cow families. We've got a Wrecking Ball heifer in here with a ribeye pushing 14 inches that weighed 900 something pounds. I mean, her ribeye per 100 is over 1.4 inches per 100 weight. And then these cattle are still driving the marbling up, Lance, into the 3, 4s, and 5s. I mean, your Lucy Lou Daybreak, that cow is a top 1%. She's classic bloodline genetics, sugar britches, all the great Collier classic stuff. And then she's delivering the IMF. And then when you put her with Daybreak, it explodes, and you get the 6.5 or whatever that number was on that Lucy Lou, 6.43. Yeah, it was phenomenal. And then, like you said, the Boss Ladies, again, giant carcass data on the bottom of great looking homozygous polled. Then you take Live Oak Lady Grace, comes out of the old 293 Amazing Grace cow family from the Homestead back in the day with 7C Anderson and B7 breeding, and we put Daybreak on top. Those heifers, 17A and B, probably arguably some of the best, if not the best phenotypes and power and bone. If you want to talk bone, Daybreak ain't taking the bone off. They are the bone, the sogginess, stoutness. Then you got Jackie Robinsons and Prince Jacks and Trinities, the first offering of Trinity on the Friday Night Delight out of the Oasis clone. They're phenomenal. The Precious Jewel Daybreaks. I know I'm forgetting stuff, Primates, on and on, some Tidal Waves. I mean, Tidal Wave is, his EPDs keep going up because we're putting him against the best of the best at H Bar, and he's proven he can outgrow and outperform the best of them out there. And so that's what's so cool is that Greg is producing there at H Bar. The data points that he's going to put in through whole herd reporting is going to give this breed so much more integrity. It's going to give us such a bigger cross-section of genetics against each other to where we really can put more emphasis on an EPD value, on the carcass value. I know you get excited about that, Lance, in your world, but yeah, I mean, go on and tell me about that. But when we go out there and get into the commercial arena, these guys don't know pedigree names. They don't know what values are worth what. They do know that if this animal is top 5% growth and has a 5% marbling score and a 14-inch ribeye and low calving, a great calving ease number and low birth weight and polled, and looks like a carcass meat animal that's also got flow and maternal soundness, that's where we need to go. So it's exciting.
And, you know, another thing is sometimes you kind of lose sight of this a little bit, but when you start looking at those ratios and then you look at these contemporary groups, I mean, when these ratios are up there, they earned it because they're out there competing against, Daybreaks, Tidal Waves. They're competing against Trinities and Wrecking Ball, and that they're in large contemporary groups. We're primarily 20 to 30 contemporary groups, in each one. So they're
what you need.
It really is kind of showing you what these different animals can do against some true competition.
And that's exciting, and everything that we've talked about here, and the cattle in the sale, and the amount of polled, and the performance, and the carcass, everything that Greg, you and Trey have both mentioned is exciting, and I think it's where we need to head as a breed, and in moving in that direction of a commercially acceptable animal, like Trey said. So you kind of set the bar high. Where do you go from here?
Just a minute ago, Trey was mentioning the Live Oak Lady Grace, and I was just sitting here thinking about, that's a 8 to 10-year-old cow that is your traditional, what I, for me personally, would just call old school cow. But then you bring her in and you start taking her back to some of these new modern bulls, and look what you're getting. Just in my opinion, that lot 17A and B are both just phenomenal females. I absolutely love them. And I just think when, we can go back to these cattle that the breed has been breeding for years, and you start matching them up with some of these really performance-y bulls, you can just get some fantastic animals. So, I encourage people that, you love the females that you're looking at, but take a chance on some of these what I would call kind of more modern type bulls. Clark Jones has been working on it for years with the carcass over there, and Jerry, and so many different ones, and just get in there and reach out and try some of these bulls that these guys are offering out there on some of these females, and you can really create some incredible progeny.
Yeah, absolutely. Trey?
Yeah, where the program's going, Lance, I'll tell you, with Greg's energy and mentality, faster, bigger, more, better, as quick as we can get there. Everybody better pack a lunch and keep up, because he's going to keep pushing hard. And that's what is so fun about working with this program. That's what our breed needs, is people that aren't stuck on status quo. I've written about that in my article time and over and again. And doing the same thing that we've done for 20 and 30 years is not going to create growth. You and I know we have flatlined on growth as a breed for the last decade or two. We're holding our own. People like our stuff, but we're not drawing in the additional growth. I mean, we take up about 1% of the market right now, registered genetics. Imagine this. We could go and quadruple in size, quadruple this breed in size, and still only have 4% of the market. I mean, we've got so much blue sky ahead of us as a breed. It's exciting. And so H Bar realizes that. That's why they're out there aggressively going for that commercial bull market that's going to draw more registered people in, and they're going to be buying more registered females and building their herds to create more commercial bulls. We've got to grow it that way. We cannot grow it just sitting in the same circle that we've sat in. And so by having more polls, better data, proving these cows, I mean, Lance, you and I have talked about we want to be the maternal breed of choice. How many times have we said that? Oh, we're Beefmasters. We have the best mama cow in the industry, and we do, but we haven't proven it. And by doing WHR and by pushing the envelope that Greg has, recording the data, getting all the scans, getting the DNA, doing the things he's doing to get those measures, and several of our other breeders are out there as well, and I thank them for that. But now we're going to be able to prove that Live Oak Lady Grace, by the way, she's 11, Greg. She just looks like a 6-year-old cow because her udder's still perfect. She's still fresh and got tons of longevity left in her, that those cows really can do that they really do last 12 and 13 years. And here's 13 calves that she's had in a row since she turned 2 years of age. And look at the stability, look at the longevity, look at the feed efficiency. I mean, Greg, what's going on at McGregor? You've got some exciting things going on in that Texas A&M test you've got going on the McGregor unit over there.
over at McGregor. So Swing and B had asked me to participate with them at the McGregor facility A&M's putting on with Dr. Carson, and they're doing a feed efficiency study over there. And we talked this last week, and he said he has just been super impressed with what he's seeing as far as the gain. And they're documenting exactly how many pounds per day those animals are eating, staying right on top of the weight gain. They're going to AI everything and then follow them through another 90 days. And then he's going to come back in the future and visit with us and give all of us some information and data on how these Beefmasters did. But he said he would be more than happy to come talk about them because they've really seen good things over there. And I forget exactly what they're gaining per day, but he's going to be able to give out some really good information on these Beefmasters in the future.
So that's the stuff that's going to look really good for us and prove, what we've been saying, what we know as a breed that we do well. That's what's going to help us prove it and push us forward. And Trey, Greg, I'll give y'all a little bit of time and we'll wrap it up here. If y'all got any final thoughts, and then we'll get wrapped up for the day.
Greg, and I'll finish up.
We just want to invite everybody out to the sale coming up, and if there's ever anything I can do to, help out with any information of anything we've got, I'm an open book, and we'll be glad to visit with anybody anytime. But we would certainly love to host you, and hope you guys can make it out. I think we'll have a really good time, and I hope you're able to look at some cattle that you feel like are quality and something that will benefit your program.
Yeah, I highly encourage everybody to come. This is where, even if you're not there to buy, come study the cattle, come learn, come visit with the people that are there. Put your mind to work. Like Greg challenged you, go out there and maybe flush one of these exciting new females in your herder, pick up this exciting new female, whether it's at this event or another one, and let's push that envelope. I think this is a perfect example of what can happen when the breed gets excited, when breeders get excited, and we push the envelope forward. There are big, great things that come in this breed, and June 5th and 6th is going to be a great time and an awesome place to start your summer off with some of the best cattle in the breed. I'm looking forward to it.
And I'm going to mention this because it's just something I may not get the opportunity to, discuss with a lot of people in the future. But if, as Beefmaster breeders, if we would each one, every bull sale we go to, grab a couple commercial cattle guys, drag them along with you, buy them dinner, and let them show up and see what we're raising in the Beefmasters, because so many people just don't realize what we've got. And it has not taken very much to get a lot of our local commercial cattlemen to jump over on the Beefmaster bandwagon. They're seeing that these bulls can put more pounds on the ground than a lot of the other breeds. They're dollaring out just as much on their steers, and they're crushing it with their heifers. So if we just all grab somebody and carry a couple extra people with us to a bull sale down the road, we're going to help expand our breed.
Oh, that's exactly right. That's where we've got to expand it. Like we've talked about, we've got to expand into that commercial market. That's what's going to grow the breed. Greg, you mentioned you started in the commercial side of things. I want to thank y'all both for getting on here. Greg, thanks. It's always great to talk to you. Trey, great to talk to you. And we'll look forward to the next episode of the Beefmaster Banter.
And finally, thank you to the listeners who joined us today. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and we're so excited to continue to bring you great content from the Beefmaster breed. Please know that we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Beefmaster Banter. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. We can't wait to hear from you, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.